Thank you very much for the introduction and for the invitation. I'm glad to be here with you all. Yes, I'm going to switch to English. I'm sorry, because my German is too bad. I won't give a try to it. So, my name is Alexiane Zelinsky. I work for the city of Paris in the Mobility Agency. And today I want to speak to you about how Paris is trying to become a model city for pedestrians. As an introduction, I'd like to try to answer a very complicated question with small and easy words. How do you become a successful walkable city? Or at least how we do it, and we try to do it in Paris. I think there are two major tools to become a walkable city. The first one is to pacify the public space, so to reduce car circulation, to give more space to pedestrians, bicycles, to all the active mobility. And that's what we're trying to do in Paris with a program that is a common thread and that we call Paris Breathing. And it includes a lot of different projects to reduce car circulation and give more space to pedestrians. The second major tool is to give access to all public services and equipment that everybody needs in his everyday life within a walk distance. And that's what we call, and what Carlos Moreno calls, the 15-minute city. So the 15-minute city has three major goals: to tackle urban density with respiration zones for a city to become more resilient, to develop proximity, to have a better neighborhood life, and to develop usage, density, and modularity. It means in one place you can have different usage of this place. You can see on the design what could be this kind of model neighborhood. So it would be a neighborhood where pedestrians can walk safely, feel safe when they walk in the city. They find very clean streets. They found outdoor culture, sport, outdoor. The school has become the capital of the district where the children and the family can come, play, get together. You can cycle around and you can go by foot to the local shops that are supported by the city to survive in front of bigger ones. And you have also, and we don't forget that because it's very important, the participatory way of doing the city. So you have a citizen kiosk and several means for citizens and residents to participate in the project of the city. This design shows how we want to change paradigm from a car city to a walking and cycling city. I want to go through two major case studies. These are two programs that we are implementing in Paris to give more space to pedestrians. The first one is called the Limited Traffic Zone and aims at discouraging traffic through the center of Paris. Paris is already a walking city. Of course, we have already over half of the journey within central Paris that are made on foot. You can see it on the graph below. In 2010, we had already 60% of the modal share that was walking, and it's still increasing, as you can see. And then public transportation has also a very big modal share. But we still want to provide more space for pedestrians and more space for bicycles. As you can see, it's still low, but our goal is to go further and further and reach 15% modal share by 2030. So this big project I want to speak to you about is what we call in French, Paris Respire Zone Apaisée. It means Breathing Paris Appeased Zone. It's a quite big zone where transit trafficking will be forbidden. So you cannot go through the zone anymore if you don't have an activity to do inside it. The goal of this kind of zone is to encourage cycling and walking, reduce the car circulation to give more space to those kind of active mobility, to ease bus circulation, pacify the local life, enhance air quality and reduce noise pollution. And as you can see, it's quite a big zone in Paris. It's all the central zone of Paris. There are more than 100,000 inhabitants, and on a daily matter, more than 500,000 cars crossing. And the modal share of this zone is already in majority public transportation and walking. So this project aims at reducing the transit traffic within central Paris. The common rule will be passing through the zone is forbidden to everyone, except, of course, some entitled users as residents, bus, bikes, emergency vehicles, of course, and disabled people. But all destination traffic will be allowed. So if I have family inside the zone, if my granny lives in the zone and I want to go there by car for what reason, I still be able to do it. If I want to visit the Louvre Museum that is inside the zone also, I can come by car if, for example, I'm a senior person or I need a car to come there. Then the big challenge of such a zone will be the control, of course. How we control this kind of zone with all these different users that are entitled or not. So we try for now to have a twofold system. We modify the traffic plan to reduce entry points so that we reduce the circulation coming inside the zone. And we make it very difficult to exit the zone through small streets. And then we put municipal police control at the big exit points. And this municipal police will check the vehicle size, if it's a taxi or a bus, okay, you can go. They would check if you have a badge on the vehicle, maybe you're a resident, and they would check some proofs like a parking receipt, if maybe I went to see the Louvre Museum. You have to know why we need this municipal control, is that in France, in the French law, the municipality cannot have a camera control and automated control for now, for this kind of zone. But we are progressing on it and trying to make it possible. The second major program we are implementing now is what we call Beautify Your Neighborhood, and it aims at enhancing pedestrians' comfort and security. Yeah, in French it sounds a bit less beautify your neighborhood, but it's the translation I found. This project is kind of interesting because it shows that our vision of public space is really the scale of neighborhood. This program, we took one neighborhood per district. In Paris, we have 17 districts with a mayor per district and a central mayor. So we discussed with the mayors. We selected one neighborhood per district, so 17 for this year. And then we have a global diagnosis of this zone. So what we need to change to enhance, to reduce car traffic, maybe which sidewalk need to be widened, which equipment need to be more accessible to disabled people, which school street we could close to give more space to children in their daily lives, where can we plant trees, what parking spots we could transform into more shared spaces, and what kind of local cycle lanes we can develop to make sure that we can cross the neighborhood very easily. So this is an example of mapping of a neighborhood with all these different aims. And for this program, we have a very intense participative approach. So after doing this diagnosis, we present it to the inhabitants, and we go through a very long consultation period of 6 months usually, where we do urban walks. We go on site, seeing what can be enhanced, what can be progressed. We have an online consultation where people can give ideas, propositions, comments, the projects that are proposed. And we transform the diagnosis, we present it again with the validated projects, and then we go through the feasibility studies, and we go through the period of work that usually we try to have it within 1 year, but sometimes 1 year and a half or so. And then when the spaces is freed up, we can go through animating it, how we can animate these zones. So this is the different phases of this program. And to give you some concrete example of what project is gathered in this Beautify Your Neighborhood program. For example, this is what we call school streets. So we want our schools to become the capital of neighborhoods where children, but also the family and all the residents can come and have these freed-up spaces for the daily life. So we close the street in front of schools to give these new spaces for residents, and we also transform the schoolyards into more playful space. We plant trees there to have respiration zone, and it's for the children, but it's also for everyone because we open the schoolyards to everyone during the weekends. Here you can see some streets that have been closed temporarily on your left. What we do is during summer, we close the school very quickly to car with, you see, barriers and some kind of or ground planters with vegetation. And then during the whole year, we design it permanently. So you can see on your right, we plant trees and we put like proper barriers and everything. We also want to secure the pedestrian routes inside the neighborhood. So here you have some example of urban planning with pedestrian platforms, crossing sidewalks, and also in our policy to reduce parking spots, we target the parking spots that are in front of pedestrian crossings to enhance their security. How do we vegetate the city? So we have a big goal of planting numerous trees for this mandate. We have the very common method on the left. So we vegetate in ground planters with several kind of essence and biodiversity. But we also have new kind of concepts for vegetation. On the top, you have the concept of urban forest that we try to develop in Paris. For those who maybe don't know, it's a kind of dense forest, a dense plantation inside the city. But it's dense to be similar to a forest, but still we want to give Parisians access into this forest. And what we do is that we keep very defended part of this forest, and then we have secured a path to cross it. And another concept, another method we develop on the embankment of the ring road is the Mayawaki Forest. That is another type of dense forest that needs very low maintenance because it's just naturally, you plant a lot of trees and you see which ones survive. Pedestrians also, of course, is one of our big targets, but we also want to give more space to bicycles, and we want to become 100% cycle-friendly capital. So we develop infrastructure and secure the practice. We have a very large network that we concert with the metropolis and with the region. And we also have local networks inside the neighborhood, and we articulate the both. And here I wanted to show you a case study that is quite famous. It's Rue de Rivoli, is the street that goes along the Louvre Museum, the same. So you can see that before we had 3 vehicle lanes, and then we changed into a first phase where we developed bi-directional cycling lane that is secured. And then we went very fast on a temporary phase. It's the second phase where you can see on the bottom. We enlarged the cycle lane to make it more comfortable to the bicycles. And soon we want to go to the permanent design and make it very clear and comfortable for bicycles and have 2 unidirectional lanes. Because you need to know that on this kind of street, we have usually 12,000 bicycles a day. So we need comfortable and large lanes because otherwise it's saturated very quickly. And to finish with, I wanted to, so we saw the urban planning part, and now our challenge is to encourage the appropriation of this urban planning, because we freed up public space, and now people need to appropriate it. First, our big challenge is to pacify public space and to reduce conflict between pedestrians, bicycles, and all the new users of the street. So we want to create a code of the street that will be additional to the code of the road to pacify the usage of the street and to raise street sharing awareness, to have shared walkways that are calm and pacified. We also reduced the speed in Paris. Now Paris is at 30 kilometers per hour to secure pedestrians and bicycles. We also supervise the development of free-floating engines, otherwise it is everywhere. And we develop a very positive communication about security on the street, sharing the street, and all these matters. And then with these freed up spaces, we try to animate them. So our first target is those street schools where we have a ground design for the children to play, sport outdoor. We also develop workshop for teaching the children how to ride and repair a bike. And we turn our parking spots into shared spaces and green spaces. I will conclude on these words with some inspiration from our mayor, Anne Hidalgo. For her, the project is really about proximity, participation, collaboration, and ecology. And all these are inside the 15-minute city, actually. So I would be very keen on having your questions. And I also want to ask you maybe a question. That is, what is for you a successful walkable city? If we can maybe also share some good practices, I would be very happy. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think there will be a few questions, yes.
Michel de la Ville de Brême. My question is a little bit about the conflicts. It sounds so smooth the way you did it. I can only say congratulations. I used to work in Paris for a couple of weeks in the 80s, and cycling at that time was as if you felt committed to suicide. It was completely different, and it's such a development. Congratulations. But could you give us some more insights about the conflicts? And when you dedicate street space to one group, you take it away from another group. And our experience here that we shared during the day is that especially parking is something that's emotionally so overcharged. Yeah? People are so irrational. And I would like to hear more how you dealt with these points, because the numbers of cars that you took out and the size of pedestrian space that you created is so big. It's fascinating, but I would like to know more. Thank you.
Do you want to answer it now, or do you want
I can,
to?
of course. Yeah, thank you for the question. It's honestly, it's really our big challenge, the conflicts in the street. That's why we try to develop this code of the street, actually to share awareness and pedagogy and information, because people is not used to cycle in a street in a city. Actually, we are used to use our vehicle and we feel very safe in it. So now people need to learn how to cycle in a city, and that's why we also want to implement it in schools. So we have a new program so that when you leave school, when you're children and you leave school, you know how to ride a bike, and you know how to ride a bike in a city and in a dense city. So it's our major goal. We really have to tackle now. And we also try to experiment new design that we call cycling streets. where you have really a shared space. So the street, you have the priority for bicycle and pedestrian on the street, but still vehicles are allowed. So we still try to experiment things, but I think the infrastructure is very important to secure the users, but the pedagogy and the behaviors, I think, are the key, actually. And you also need to notice that we don't have a lot of dead on bicycle per year. We have, I think last year, maybe 8. It's already too much, but compared to the increase of the usage of cycling, it's very low.
Can you say something about the conflicts of parking?
Of parking spots, you
With the car drivers who
yeah.
are maybe a bit annoyed about your plans.
Do you think so? Yeah. I mean, it's a policy and we assume it. Of course, drivers maybe don't vote for us. But actually, they are annoyed because it changes their habits. But we still have enough parking spots in the ground parking. I mean, I'm not sure about the specific word, but when you suppress parking spot on the public space, you just need to have to go. I mean, 300 meters away to go in the ground parking and park there. So we keep, of course, the disabled people spots, the delivery spots, and all the spots that are needed. But then for other people, they need also to take the habit to go underground.
My question goes in the same direction. I have family in Malmaison, so I know Paris quite well, and not in my wildest dream I would have thought that, you know, in the year 2021 this would happen. I'm still surprised by the speed. I mean, all the things you mentioned here, we kind of do here too, but we don't manage to pick up that speed that happened in Paris. And what made it possible? Was it just the mayor, or what was the agenda that drove it?
I think it all started with the strikes. We had very big strikes in Paris in 2019, I think. Yeah. And people couldn't take the public transportation anymore. There was traffic jam everywhere, and they jumped on a bike. No, but really, it was actually a good opportunity for Paris in that matter, of course. And then you had the crisis COVID, but all this contextual. This context give opportunity to bicycle, because bike is you can trust in a bike. So you just take your bike and you go somewhere. You don't depend on a public transportation that sometimes has difficulty because of a crisis or a context crisis, and you can go more quickly than a vehicle today with bike. So I think that it helped giving the will to people to try. And now they've tried, and they see that they go quick. It's kind of safe today because we really develop new infrastructure that are secured. We develop pedagogy. Now you can see on the street children on bicycle. You can see senior person taking their bike. So I think the trend has started and is increasing now. And you can also see that already our infrastructure is sometimes saturated because it goes too fast.
Any other questions? Yes.
I have a question about the limited traffic zone. You said that it's directly in the center of Paris. Are there any parts of Paris that are not directly in the center that are saying we would like to have this as well? It's unfair that everything is just centered in the center where it's already quite nice.
Yes, you're right. Everybody now wants its limited traffic zone in Paris. And you're right, because I didn't mention that we also have, maybe a bit less, 2 or 3 months of consultation, workshop with the residents, with a lot of different actors, and with the district mayors to have a very concerted approach on this program. And you had the two versions. You have the version where not in my backyard, so I don't want the traffic zone in my district, and you had other that said, oh, I'm just at the border of it, I really want to be part of it. And what we answer is that it's already such a huge zone, I mean, to control and it's kind of a first experiment. If it works, if everybody's happy, who knows, we maybe be able to enlarge it. But for now, it's already such a big zone, so we need to start somewhere.
My question revolves around the pop-up cycleways that were set up as a pandemic response. We had them in Vienna too, but it was a mere 7 kilometers and not 100 like in Paris. My question is, was the fact that they were staying, or a majority of them were staying, was that already embedded in the city's plan to introduce the 15-minute city, or was that just more easy for you to keep them? Because in Vienna, once the pandemic was like, the first summer was over, they were stripping it away.
Yeah, thank you for your question. I like this concept of pop-up cycle lane, and we also introduced it during COVID crisis, so it matched the other question. Now we are actually designing them permanently, but it takes time. So just during the crisis, we developed 50 or 60 kilometers of new temporary cycle lanes, and now we are on the process of designing them permanently. So it takes time because you need secured infrastructure, you need to take into account the bus, the delivery zones, and all the different users. So we are doing it, and it's linked to the 15-minute city, but I mean, today, quite all of our project on the public space is linked to this 15-minute city because we want to give more proximity for everything, so for the different usage. So yeah, it's linked to it. I'm not sure I answer all your question. Yeah? Okay.
Thank you. Are there any other questions? If you don't, oder wenn Sie das nicht in Englisch fragen wollen, können wir gerne auch versuchen, es zu übersetzen, sagen wir es so. Oh, sorry.
Robert Thaler from the Ministry of Climate Action. Very impressive. I know Paris very well since decades, and it's really changed. Incredible for such a city. My question is, Paris is now some kind of a pearl with this 15-minute city, but what's about the whole other cities in France? Is there because I'm coming from the Ministry of Climate Action, so we have Austria, municipalities, federal states, the ministry, and we try to bundle the forces, how it looks like the situation in France vis-à-vis the government, the federal government, or as a model for other cities.
It is a national trend. You have a lot of cities trying to develop new ways to give more space to pedestrian bicycles. So, for example, there is a limited traffic zone in Nantes, another city in France, in Lyon, even if it's not exactly the same, but it's the same spirit, also in Grenoble. So you have other cities that develop this kind of program. Also, a lot of cities are going fast on developing bicycle lanes, also Lyon, Bordeaux. So there is a trend in France, and Paris is leading on some parts, but not on every part. For example, the limited traffic zone is being implemented now in Paris, but Nantes already has it for, I think, about 10 years. But now it's like they need to upload it a bit because it's now dated.
Okay, thank you. I think, are there any more questions? No? No? Okay. Thank you very much.